Hi, I'm Jennifer. Thanks for joining me for quick business tips. Today, we're going to do something fun. Close your eyes for a second and think back to the project that maybe made you want to reconsider your career choices. Maybe you're a realtor and you took the client to see 47 houses. You made 6 offers, and then they ended up yelling at you in the middle of the title office because the seller took the curtains. Or maybe you're a contractor and it was the blue bathroom project, the one where the homeowner changed their mind on the tile 3 different times after it was already set and then argued with you over the change order because it just didn't feel right. We've all had those bad projects. Now, you've probably heard me talk about the bad guy or the villain because when we talk about your marketing message, we want the problem that the client is facing to be the bad guy that you are both fighting against. The leaky roof, the outdated kitchen, the house that just won't sell. But today, the bad guy is that client that we all know about, that we've all had to deal with, that really shouldn't have been your client in the first place. Now, this isn't something that most business courses or business schools talk about. It's the cost that comes with the yes that should have been a no. We're going to dig into the psychology of these red flag type clients and, even more importantly, the psychology of you, the business owner, who chooses to ignore all of the red flags that are coming up before you sign that contract with the client. Today is not just about avoiding headache. It's about protecting yourself, your business, your employees, because God only gave you so much energy to serve people, and you need to spend that energy serving the people that value you. So first, let's talk about why. Why do we sit across from a prospective client and we watch them maybe treat their spouse poorly, or we hear them talk poorly about a previous contractor in ways that, like, it's pretty clear that it wasn't the contractor's fault? But still, we think, that's okay. I can make this work. The psychology behind this choice is scarcity. Because as entrepreneurs, we've all had to worry about where the next deal is coming from. We look at our overhead, our payroll, our own mortgage, and we think, I'm not sure I can afford to say no to this revenue stream. But it's really important to remember, especially during those times where you're sitting across from that client, that all money is not good money. Because when you say yes to the red flags that come with a problem client, you're not just getting a paycheck. You are putting yourself into a huge amount of debt. The debt comes from the energy that you have to borrow from the time that you want to be spending with your family and friends. The debt comes from the sanity that breaks your team because they're having to deal with this client. And the debt comes when you are borrowing from your own capacity and then not being able to serve your good clients well. Because when a problem client takes up 80% of your emotional bandwidth, you have nothing left to give to those ideal clients, the ones that trust you, value you, and pour into you and fuel your passion. Now, we all know that as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you have to have confidence, but you can't be a confident expert that is also held hostage by a problem client. So I'm going to really quickly run through 4 red flags that we want to recognize before these people become clients so that we can avoid them at all costs. The first red flag is the one who bashes a past vendor or even a current vendor. They might spend the first 20 minutes of a sales consultation telling you how horrible their last realtor was. They use words like crook, idiot, unprofessional. And as you listen to their narrative, if everyone in their past is a villain, I can almost guarantee you that you are going to be the next one that they tell this type of story about. Because your ideal client is not someone who chooses to disrespect previous experts in their lives, because those people won't respect you either. And when you are bringing on a client for your heart-centered business, you're looking for someone to partner with. And this type of client is looking for someone to blame. They want to play victim and they're looking for a scapegoat. Now, red flag number 2 is the one who is shopping the price. Everybody wants a fair price, and there is nothing wrong with that. That is normal. But when you have a red flag price shopper, they don't really care about value. They just care about getting a discount. They care about winning the negotiation. They want to know your best price before you've even finished assessing the project. They mention their cousin who could do it for half of that price, or the guy down the street. And when you sign someone who is just shopping on price, you're signing someone who is going to scrutinize every invoice in a way that is unreasonable. They will be the first to withhold payment when you're in that messy middle of the project because they don't see you as an expert, they see you as an expense. They are going to be 80% of your headaches and only 20% of your profits. They are not the client that you want. Red flag number 3 is the one who is always feeling urgency. And it's usually a self-inflicted type of urgency. This is the client who you're not really going to see this flag come out until you start working with them, but they're going to call you on Tuesday and they are going to need a full kitchen remodel done. And it needs to start the following Wednesday because they have a huge party. Or their life is a series of emergencies and they expect you to set your own house on fire just to help them out. Now, I talk a lot about unreasonable hospitality and I try to run my business by it, live my life by it. But unreasonable hospitality does not mean participating in someone else's chaos. So a client who doesn't respect your boundaries and your process, they're never going to respect the results that you give to them. The last red flag is the one who just sees a boundary as a line to cross. This one is easy to fall for because they seem really nice. They're friendly, they're chatty, but they usually don't have an off switch. So they text you at 10:30 on a Sunday night. They call you during your daughter's big soccer game. And if you don't answer immediately, they follow up with the dreaded question marks. We've all had those texts, right? When a client is doing this, it's a signal that they don't trust you. They don't believe that the project is moving unless they are actively poking and prodding you. And if they don't respect a no during your sales consultation, they're certainly not going to respect that no during the project. And they will destroy your peace and the peace of your team. Now, once you spot a flag, your gut is probably going to be screaming at you to not take this client on. It's important to listen. But how do you go about saying no without destroying any kind of relationship? Because just because this person is a bad client doesn't mean they're going to be a bad referral partner. Or, maybe they can just turn it around. I like to give people grace without taking on their own problems. So what I like to do is apply unreasonable hospitality when I reject someone as a client. Then the way I do this is I don't go about telling them that they're going to be a nightmare client. I don't tell them that they're crazy. I don't tell them that, you know, they're too much trouble for me. What I do instead is I tell them that I am not the best person for where they are right now. Something along the lines of, I spent some time looking over your project, and based on your timeline or your budget or your expectations, my agency isn't the best fit to give you the results you're looking for. And then what I do is I refer them to someone else. If I'm referring them to someone else, I'm giving that person a heads up. And it's also usually somebody who doesn't mind working with this type of person. Like there are some realtors who love showing 100 homes to somebody. Um, or if I just can't, with a good conscience, refer them to anyone else, what I do is I just send them a list. Like, here are some other people in this industry. Here's a generic resource. Here is something to kind of like send you in the right direction. I really hope you find someone who is a good fit. And it's so important on a mental and emotional level to remember that when you say no to the wrong client, you are saying a massive yes to the right one that you don't even know is looking for you yet. Now, I personally believe that my business, my time, and my energy are all gifts that I've been given by God. And if I choose to take on a client that I know is going to be a problem, and I let them come into my life, steal my joy, my peace, my time, then I'm not being a good steward of the gifts that God have given me. And even when it's hard, I try to remind myself to trust in God's perfect timing. Trust that if I say no to a nightmare client, there's already an ideal customer just waiting for me. But I have to say no to allow room for that client to find me. And the only way I can do that is to choose to not live in fear of the scarcity that we can all get wrapped up in. So today I want to leave you with this. You have permission to protect your own peace and the peace of your employees. You have permission to say, this client, this job, this project, this is not for me. Because if we look at your business as a flower bed, we want all of the beautiful flowers to grow big and healthy. But in order to do that, sometimes we have to pull the weeds out. What I want to leave you with this week is a challenge to keep an eye out for red flags and to not bring on clients. That are going to be more trouble than they're worth. I hope you join me again next week for more quick business tips. And in this time between now and when I see you again, I hope you have the courage to spot the red flags, the faith to say no, and keep pouring into that heart so that you can serve the clients who are meant for you.